We might have just gotten fight of the year, and it's literally the beginning of the year. The very first fight of 2026 main event of the UFC 2026 and the Paramount era was an absolute classic, a banger. What a violent fight and war put on by these two, with Justin Gaethje coming out on top, something that not a lot of people expected. He gets a second interim title in his career. But wow, we are so back, bro. I know I said that many times, but I'm saying it again. We are so damn back for UFC. First card of the year was really great. Crazy main event to finish it all off. Very just very chaotic main event. That's just what Justin Gaethje brings, and we're going to get into all of this. But first, just to give my overall thoughts on the whole Paramount experience, it was very good, It's really cool how, I guess, a lot of people were upset, how many commercials there were, which I could agree there was definitely a much more, now that it's no longer pay-per-view on ESPN Plus or anything like that, now that it's on Paramount being broadcast like this, I realized, the kind of field they're going for is they're trying to turn this into football. They have, an analyst desk up top with, Michael Bisping and Dominic Cruz, the 4-panel, and then they're bringing it down to they're making it so much more like football, and now there's a lot more commercials. But now they're even skipping out on walkouts with commercials. We didn't even get to see Waldo Cortes Acosta and Derrick Lewis walk out. They just did commercials. So yeah, you're starting to see a little bit of the more commercialized presence that the UFC is going to be on, because they're now in a much more mainstream platform like Paramount Plus and the CBS, that whole umbrella, similar to football. But overall, I just got to say, it was clean. The entire broadcast was clean. It was the production. I think everything was great, for the most part. Obviously, there was a lot of commercials, but that was just my thoughts on the Paramount experience. But anyways, crazy. Let's just get into this, right? Is Paddy Pimblett a fraud? He was a big favorite. I think I saw that one person put 1.3 mil on Paddy last night. But wow. Scousers really don't get knocked out. I couldn't believe it. Paddy, the question you keep on asking yourself over this fight is, how is Paddy still standing? Because he should have been knocked out within the first 2 rounds of that fight. Gaethje kept on finding his chin. And the way that Paddy Pimblett mauled and just turned Michael Chandler into bloodbath, that's exactly what Justin Gaethje did to Paddy Pimblett. First of all, Justin Gaethje found Paddy very early on, heavy hands, throwing, finding his chin, knocking him down on the ground. You thought he was going to finish him, and then Paddy just gets back up. And then Justin's doing it again and again and again. He's dropping him. He's putting on tons and tons of damage, and Paddy just was going nowhere. Not saying that Paddy put on any kind of impressive performance on his side of things. He was a dog for staying in there. I think that's where people could give a lot of Paddy's respect. But overall, just, Paddy, and now you have Arman and Islam chirping this is what happens when you get undeserved title shots, and it definitely showed. Paddy, and it's crazy because we were saying Paddy's strength of competition has been all guys over 35, Michael Green, Tony Ferguson, and Michael Chandler. But he just lost a guy that's 37 in Justin Gaethje. And I mean, wow, this definitely, the UFC definitely just threw a wrench in their plans, to prop up Paddy into this big star to take on Topura. Yeah, you could forget about the Topura fight, Paddy. You could forget about the Topura fight. I think what this fight also showed is that neither of these guys are going to be able to handle Topura. Topura would catch both of these guys within the first 2 rounds. If Gaethje was able to catch Pimblett with some of those shots, the way that Topura would find his chin, Paddy ain't getting up from that. Paddy ain't getting up from that. And the same goes for Gaethje. Gaethje did all of that just to get slept by Topura, probably at the White House. That's what I think. I think it's pretty evident that I think Topura is going to be the second man to ever knock out Justin Gaethje. It's going to be sick, though, I guess, whatever, because Gaethje's American. I mean, it's definitely perfect in terms of the White House. You have Gaethje now as the interim lightweight champion who's American, and then you have Ilia Topuria. So that's a big fight to put on the White House for Gaethje to represent. Because I think either way, Gaethje was going to try to be on that White House card. But this was really the make it or break it fight for Gaethje. It's definitely a big legacy defining moment for him. I think obviously Gaethje, no matter what is on the way out, his next fight could be his last fight now versus Topuria. But he finds gold again in his UFC career. He's never been undisputed champ, but this is the second time he's gotten an interim belt. Right? He beat Tony Ferguson for an interim belt and then went up against Khabib, lost to Khabib. And this is his second time getting an interim belt to now face the undisputed champion in Ilia Topuria, who will absolutely, no mistakes about it, knock him out. He's just going to drop Gaethje. But enough about what's going to happen in the future. I know, like, whatever, Topuria will do that to him very, very soon. But in the meantime, just to give Gaethje's flowers right now. This is a huge moment for him. A fight where he was an underdog. A fight that people were saying Paddy's going to... I was saying that. I'll admit it. I got this main event wrong. I thought Paddy... A lot of my friends were rocking with Gaethje money line. So it was a happy night for them. Gaethje was probably 4 rounds up. 4-1 at the end of this fight. Paddy, you could argue he probably won the third, but Gaethje, no mistake about it. He won the first 2 and then finished out the rest of the fight. Just putting on insane damage on Paddy. Crazy. He really exposed Paddy in this fight. He really did. And it's great though. I mean, Justin Gaethje has for the longest time been one of the most exciting lightweights in the world, one of the best lightweights. Very explosive with his hands, like just an exciting fighter, always willing to bring it. And that was an extremely entertaining fight. And at certain points, Paddy tried, just throwing some damage back at Gaethje because Gaethje was just pouring it on him, on Paddy. Now, I will say this also. There were a couple of fouls that Gaethje got away with. Both guys fouled, right? Paddy, he needed him in Gaethje in his area. Gaethje snuck in. First, he got an eye poke, and Goddard gave him a warning. But then he did another punch, and he kind of snuck in a thumb that eye poked Paddy, but the ref didn't see it. And so he eye pokes Paddy using the side of his thumb into a punch, and then continues to lay on damage. And that was one of the big moments of the fight again, where Gaethje was putting on a lot of damage onto Paddy, and you thought he might almost finish him. It was just such a chaotic fight. What an entertaining fight for Justin Gaethje. He actually gets now $1 million. With last night's performance, he's now made over $1 million in career bonuses. And another big thing I just want to mention that's new in this era that's going to be huge for the sport is bonuses, right? Dana White announced they're now doubling performance of the night bonuses to $100K. Even if you're not a fighter that gets a bonus like performance of the night, if you finish your opponent any time, like any fighter who finishes their opponent on any point in the card, it doesn't matter if you're early prelims or prelims, if you finish your opponent, you get 25 grand added to your bag. So that's a huge incentive now for even just the most random of fighters. From the very first fight on the card, like on an early prelim, if you get a finish versus your opponent, you're getting an extra 25 grand. That's huge. Prelims are going to become crazy now. More than they did before. Like, huge W for the sport, because you knew that with the kind of money the UFC's making now, doubling their money, they had to do something for the fighters. And this definitely should be more incentivized for them to want to make more exciting fights, more finishes. You're getting 100 grand now for these type of fights. So that's a big W and win for the sport. But overall, incredible fight. Big moment for Justin Gaethje's legacy. Once again, he's an interim champion. And that's really all I got to say on it. I mean, both guys fouled each other. It was kind of like Gaethje got away with one, but like still, he won most of the fight. I'm not going to complain too much about it. But yeah, just all that to get slept by Topuria. So Gaethje gets it done, puts on the damage on Paddy. He's the UFC interim lightweight champion, and I guess we'll see whenever he fights Topuria, probably in the White House. Next up, Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. I'm not going to lie, like, Sean O'Malley might have gotten this by a hairline. Like, this was really not the most impressive way for Sean O'Malley to bounce back. It was very unimpressive, very disappointing. Like, you finally get a striker after being wrestled and thrown around by Merab in your last 2 fights. And O'Malley didn't do much with it. Like, he really did not impress me he didn't do that much that was impressive in this fight. To really showcase and put an undeniable performance versus Song Yadong and finish him, right? That's the way you make it, is by putting a finish. But Sean O'Malley barely got by with this fight. I think because he started pouring on the damage at the end, had a nice knee up Song Yadong's face. That's what really took over to allow the judges to come to the decision. But for the judges to all 3 scorecards to have it the way they did, Sean O'Malley, sure, he gets the win. The UFC was wanting him to win a decision or something so they could get him back to being one of their stars, they're cash cows that they could throw into a Peter Yan rematch. So Sean O'Malley gets the win he desperately needed because 3 straight losses, especially to a guy like Song Yadong, who's the striker fight you wanted. But he picks up the decision. I don't even know, like, some could argue that Song Yadong got robbed. And it's unfortunate. Song Yadong's a great fighter. He had that really weird controversial win versus Henry Cejudo that just kind of ended weirdly with Henry Cejudo needing to pull out because of an eye poke. Finally gets this big spot versus Sean O'Malley to really truly prove himself and put on a great performance. Displayed some of his wrestling, was putting Sean O'Malley on the ground at certain points, but most of the fight was on the striking where Sean O'Malley had it, and Sean O'Malley just didn't do much with it. So, the Sean O'Malley that showed up tonight does not beat Peter Yan in a rematch. Does not. And I think definitely the UFC needs to give Merab his trilogy fight, but it's so classic they put Sean O'Malley next up in the queue. Sean O'Malley might not fight again until either the White House or just wait for his title shot. You have Umar on the card, and the UFC definitely will probably put Sean O'Malley before Umar, because we'll get into Umar, but he also had a very boring performance, kind of how he predicted. But Sean O'Malley picks up the win. It was these 2 fights right here where I was kind of disappointed in. Like, I thought this fight was also going to be like a car crash, like first round finish, something, but Derrick Lewis kind of gave up. The first round was so weird. They were just walking around, dancing, not doing much. And then the second round, Derrick Lewis, it wasn't really anything Waldo Cortez Acosta did. Derrick Lewis kind of just tripped up in with his footwork, and then he just accepted bottom position. Waldo Cortez Acosta's like, get up. He's not getting up, so what does Cortez Acosta do? He goes to the ground to ground and pound finish Derrick Lewis, and Derrick Lewis wasn't doing anything to respond. So Waldo Cortez Acosta is now, on 4 straight wins, 6 or 7 fights in the span of a year. Incredible. Like, he's turned into a legend. Well, that's 3 straight fights now, but all by KO TKO finish. And over a guy like Derrick Lewis. We might see Derrick Lewis next in the White House, but, besides that, like, Derrick Lewis, just call it wraps, man. Like, you're giving up on fights like that? Like, I don't know. It was such a weird thing to see Derrick Lewis end the fight like that. And I expected, some fireworks in the pocket, some crazy haymakers, and someone's going to get slept for real. But it was kind of just a weird thing where Derrick Lewis just accepted bottom position and got ground and pounded by Waldo. But Waldo, a win's a win, a finish is a finish. He's going to go on now to getting a really high-ranked opponent. He's definitely in the mix for a title because there's not much there when it comes to the heavyweight division. This was horrible. Absolutely awful. Why does the UFC do this? Why do they put a freaking women's fight on the main card like this? I swear, I just was looking at my phone. I was going to get food. I didn't give a damn. Like, this was one of the most boring fights. Just take out the women's division, honestly, please. So that's all I'm saying about that. I don't give a shit about this fight. This was probably the most entertaining fight of the night. Gene Silva versus Arnold Allen did not disappoint. Back and forth. Gene Silva was hilarious. He's doing his crying, his barking. During the fight, he's like waving his finger at Arnold Allen, like, no, you didn't get me. And then Arnold Allen tags him up, and I'm like, me and my friends are like, yo, I'm pretty sure he got you. And then, they're like taunting each other. Arnold Allen's throwing, it was a good 3-round back and forth. Ultimately, though, yes, Gene Silva, I think the judges got it right. He won the fight. Obviously, there was a hilarious moment at the end where Gene Silva literally jumps off the dude's back while he's crouched down. Like, Gene Silva just... And you could tell Arnold Allen was not happy about that. Like, a guy does that to you, that's mad disrespectful mid-fight. But Gene Silva also gets a very much needed bounce back when he needed to really, get back into his momentum. But, he could be a little overrated, honestly. If he was really that special, I think he could have finished Arnold Allen. But who knows? I mean, he definitely still is in the mix to be a future title challenger. I wouldn't say yet if he could beat Volk. Him versus Lerone Murphy could be an interesting fight. But yeah, Gene Silva gets a much-needed bounce-back win after losing to Diego. But exciting fighter, exciting performance, not boring at the slightest bit, very entertaining 3-round fight. Respect to Arnold Allen, he got back in there after a long layoff, but he'll need to get back in the lab. He definitely should not take as long of a layoff as he did. He needs to come back sooner and try to bounce back with versus like a fringe ranking kind of featherweight. But yeah, Gene Silva did what he needed to. He continues to put together a pretty good resume right now for featherweight, and he'll move on to face hopefully someone higher ranked. If I got to look at the rankings and see like who would make sense for Gene Silva next. Him versus Steve Garcia could be a sick fight. Steve Garcia or Kevin Vallejos, who's going to be fighting in a few weeks. He's coming up. But yeah, Gene Silva, big win. Now we go through quickly the prelims of the fight of the night. Umar Nurmagomedov, as we know, whatever, he got another win. Technically, Umar has done enough to deserve another title shot. But again, in the way he's doing it is not that impressive. It's not that like undeniable. He's getting these boring 3-round decision fights versus Mario Batista back in October. Now we got it versus Davison Figueiredo. We knew he was going to just throw around an old Figgy. Like, if you ask me, I think Figgy should retire, but he'll probably stick around just a little more, continue to grab paychecks, be on like prelims of numbered events or on main cards of fight nights. But for Umar, I think Umar should just take a little bit of a break right now. There's not much else for him to really do right now at the moment because you got to wait for Peter Yan to fight Merab again. And then I think Sean O'Malley, honestly, is going to get the shot over Umar. But maybe the UFC wants to make Umar versus Sean, but that's not the most entertaining fight because we just know what Umar is going to do to Sean O'Malley. It's going to be a Merab repeat. So I don't think the UFC is going to do that. But Umar, I think, should take a break. He got 2 straight wins to bounce back. He's 20-1. Try to just chill and wait for your title shot is what I would say for Umar. But he played it right. He came back 3 months later, got another win. You collected your money. Cornered by Islam and Khabib, of course. Yeah, Umar, it's pretty crazy. He was on the prelims of this. But yeah, Umar, decision win. We all saw that coming. Ateba Gautier, right? The most hyped up prospect on the card. One of the most hyped up prospects in the UFC. I thought it was wraps from the moment he knocked Andre Pulayev to the ground in that first round, throwing heavy shots. But I think what a lot of the critique is on Ateba Gautier is very one-dimensional. He doesn't look to get out of the way too much. Like Rogan was saying, like he just is pressure. He's just eating those body kicks that Andre Pulayev was throwing at him and then trying to throw, some crazy haymakers. Just trying to take Andre Pulayev's head off. He got very close to doing it. But I think we all expected Gautier to just put on another showcasing performance, which it wasn't like the most showcasing performance. Obviously, he didn't get the finish. But still, very straightforward, dominant 3-round decision by Ateba Gautier. He was gassing out, though. Pulayev stuck in there. He didn't get finished like a lot of people said he was. Like, people were just saying Pulayev's going to be fed to the wolves with this guy. But Gautier, he's undefeated in the UFC. He's finished all his other opponents. Pretty good decision. It's not like he was trying to make it boring. Like, he definitely was trying to take off Pulayev's head. So, I say, Gautier still got more to go, He's only 4 fights into his UFC career, but he's a stud. He's definitely he's literally the next generation Francis Ngannou in this middleweight division. Crazy shape. Can't believe both these guys were in the same division when looking at their builds from last night. But Gautier does what he needs to, picks up the win. Not much more to say on that fight, Maybe give him somebody within the top, I would say, borderline 15 or 14 ranked, whoever that is, But yeah, the UFC continues to build him up. Nikita Krylov with a buzzer beater finish in the 3rd round versus Modestas Bukauskas. Bukauskas was on a win streak and Krylov was on a losing streak. But I was like, at first, Krylov made it out of the 1st round, which was a big accomplishment for him because in his last 2 fights, he got finished in the 1st round versus Reyes and Guskov. So I'm like, okay, Krylov, this is new for you. You finally got past the 1st round. But then in the 2nd round, 3rd round, they were definitely throwing. I don't think it wasn't the best fight of the night, of course, but in the end, Krylov finishes Bukauskas. Very big bounce back win for Krylov, and now he's calling for Jan Blachowicz. I say if they don't do the Guskov versus Blachowicz fight again, make it. Do Krylov versus Blachowicz. Polish power versus Russia. So Krylov gets the finish. Alex Perez gets a big bounce back performance. Well, it's not really a bounce back. He was on a 3-fight losing streak versus the division's very best. But he does what he needs to. Like he said, he saved himself his job. He was on the last fight of his contract, and he goes and finishes Charles Johnson. It was hilarious. Dude, he damaged Charles Johnson so badly. And then Charles Johnson tried getting back up and going after him. He was so upset about this. But dude, you were not okay. You got knocked out. You were done. Like, Charles Johnson was done. Perez, gets it done to open up the prelims. Pretty exciting finish. Charles Johnson, I guess, will be given another prospect to end off. We lost like 2 prelims, early prelims. Like the Johnson versus Kike Hernandez fight fell off because there was like some weird betting activity, and the UFC wasn't taking any chances with that, I guess. Learning their lesson from that other fight that happened late last year with Bulgarian. And then there also was the Smotherman, of course, collapsing at the weigh-ins. So very this card lost a lot of fights, but the last fight I want to cover, I mean, this ended in a crazy finish, but I'll be honest, I didn't get to watch this one. I wasn't at my boy's crib yet. But this one, Josh Hokett versus Denzel Freeman, I was watching this on the way to him. Yeah, Josh Hokett continues his run, KOs, finishes Denzel Freeman. Denzel Freeman looked like a bum in there. Like, dude, get this dude out of the UFC. He might have won his first fight, but look, he looks so bad in there. Hokett freaking throwing him around, literally pushes him to the ground, and then gives him the middle finger, and then gets the finish. That was actually a legendary moment. Crazy timing. Hokett, that was crazy. This dude's hilarious. He's fun. He's really fun. The way he does his interviews, the way he puts up dude, giving middle fingers mid-fight is mad disrespectful, and then the dude just gets finished. It was hilarious. So I'm on the Josh Hokett train. He's an exciting guy for heavyweight. He's like the Colby Covington of heavyweight. He's fun though, for real. So yeah, guys, overall, that was the very first card of the year. We go right back into it next weekend. I'm going to be uploading a video probably tomorrow on UFC 325. It is exciting times. We're finally back. And yeah, impressive by Justin Gaethje. Really proved everyone wrong. Like, this is a huge moment for Gaethje at 37 years old. Beats a young scouser like Paddy and gets back an interim championship, and now takes on Topura. Like, Gaethje getting the most of the final moments of his career. And for Paddy, respect to Paddy. Like, he definitely didn't deserve that Topura fight, though. Like, he would have gotten slept. He's getting slept by Topura. Don't get him mistaken. And yeah, but he just ate up so much damage, and I couldn't believe he was still standing through all 5 rounds. Crazy. That's the kind of fight you're going to rewatch soon. Like, I would rewatch that in a few months from now. Crazy fight. Fun times. And yeah, see you guys in the next one.